And you see before you the website of the Aquarian Wisdom Center and the various boxes here that you can click on. And I'm going to be going through a couple of these boxes in this presentation to explain to you what we're all about and how this initiative basically is a seed, a humble seed that for the future new schools that the hierarchy envisage in the Aquarian age. And so in, I think it's Lesson Occult Meditation, DK says, quote, "The Master's purpose a movement that has in view the harnessing of the lower mind through the instrumentality of the people themselves. With this object in view, they plan to utilize the incoming ray of ceremonial order or organization, the seventh ray, following the coming of the great Lord to start these schools and to bring the consciousness of men everywhere the following four fundamentals. A, the evolutionary history of man from the mental side. B, the septenary constitution of the macrocosm and the microcosm. C, the laws governing man's being. And D, the method of occult development." So, of course, the seventh ray is coming into much more rapid and rounded out expression since 1945, in fact, and for the next 2,500 years, which spans the age of Aquarius, which of course is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is also the ruler of the seventh ray. So we are also told that this is a cycle not only of 2,160 years of Aquarius, but a greater cycle of 25,000 years on a greater zodiacal wheel of Aquarius, which has only happened for the seventh time in the history of the fifth root race. Very tantalizing passage that many of us have pondered over the years. So, the evolutionary history of man from the mental side is probably something that I've covered in my book, The Hidden History of Humanity, now called the Unveiling Genesis, Mysteries of the Root Races and Cycles, also in the video, which you can find on YouTube, The Hidden History of Humanity, it's titled there. The septenary constitution of the macrocosm and the microcosm, the laws governing man's being, the method of occult development, these are all part of the ageless wisdom esoteric teachings. Of course, we have a few of the masters pictured here to the right, most of the faces you are familiar with. And DK goes on to say, when they are producing scholars, these schools, and workers, politicians and scientists and educational leaders who make their impress on their environment, then mayhap, to use an old Elizabethan word, will come the time for the founding in exoteric fashion of the true occult school. If the earlier schools and colleges do their work satisfactorily, they will have demonstrated to the world of men that the subjective is the true reality. This subjective reality being universally admitted will therefore permit of the founding of a chain of inner schools that will be publicly recognized. So to the left here, we have a diagram, I think it's from Letters on Occult Meditation, where this quote is from, of the floor plan of the new schools, which is described in more detail in that book. Of course, we have the Platonic Academy up here with all the philosophers talking to each other, Plato, Socrates, and so forth. And coming back to this original quote here, following the coming of the great Lord, this is basically the return of the Christ himself into physical form sometime after 2025. A very unusual but necessary incarnation and sacrifice that this being will be making to come back in physically amongst humanity once again. We can't imagine the degree of sacrifice that this entails. But we know that the next few decades will be, or in 2025 at the centenary Shambhala meeting, the Masters of Wisdom and the Christ will determine what date for the reappearance, for the externalization of the ashrams. It could be as late as 2080, given the fact that ashrams have to organize, people have to incarnate, and so forth, before all the disciples and initiates of the ashrams, before the actual hierarchy themselves take physical bodies and reappear, culminated by, in fact, Christ himself. So these new schools may not manifest for another century or so yet, but it is planned and they will externalize. There's no question about that. So in the meantime, many initiatives that we're all familiar with, that we may have been part of or still are part of, have been popping up around the world for the last century. And some claim to be the school, the new school. Others recognize the fact that these are all seeds of the schools or groups. And of course, the fundamental factor of learning to work in group form and work out relationships and personal issues with one another. This is the big challenge. There's one thing to have the ideal of working in groups. There's another thing to actually do it and to work out the many different kinds of differences, approach, relationships to one another, and so forth. So these 7 of these proposed 14 schools will be in Europe. I only just realized today when I was looking at this passage from Letters on Occult Meditation, I think that is the book, where the Tibetan discusses the preparatory grades and the advanced schools. So Greece or Syria leading to Egypt, Middle West USA leading to California, Southern France leading to Italy, Scotland or Wales leading to Ireland, Sweden leading to Russia, New Zealand leading to Australia, Japan leading to China. So the bolded countries are these 7 European countries. And that's half of the 14 schools, the future envisaged 14 schools. Hence, it really underlines the importance of Europe getting itself right, getting itself integrated and aligned, and evoking the nation's respective souls. And so the Aquarian Wisdom Center and Retreat Association seeks to sow a future seed towards this end. We are a non-profit group, registered non-profit group, set up for the sole purpose of esoteric education, meditation, and community living in the true spirit of Aquarius. This proposed teaching center in Portugal will be a facility available for every serious student from any nation who can contribute to its development and expansion. The manifestation of the center will come about through a donation fund. The association's board of directors are steeped in Jesus' wisdom philosophy as disseminated through esoteric teachers such as Alice Bailey, Blavatsky, and Helen O'Rourke. Now, you see a picture here of a dwelling somewhere in the forest. We don't actually have a retreat yet. We are working towards something like this. When we first issued these pictures on our website, people said, "Can I come and stay for a few weeks at your retreat?" And we had to say, no, we did state clearly that this is the aim, this is the vision. And indeed, that's what it can be for people to visit and stay, contribute, live, and so forth. in the future. Our goal is to help establish a teaching centre based upon a recognised need, stated by AEB's teacher, Tibetan Master Kawashko. Europe is the field for the education of the world and the ideas of a true world unity, and for the wise presentation of the plan. From that continent can the inspiration go forth to the east and the west. Portugal has a deep history of the Knights Templar, keepers of the mystery tradition. It was in fact this group that helped to bring about the formation of modern Portugal in 1143 AD, and which is in fact the horoscope for Portugal generated at that time. In my many studies and conversations with Portuguese people and the blue books, we propose that Portugal is a Virgo soul and a Pisces personality. Portugal is sometimes referred to as Port to Graal, or Port of the Grail, as in the Holy Grail, associated with the Christ, head of all the ashrams, masters of wisdom, archangels, and humanity. Just as Britain and Europe is the mother of the USA, so Portugal is the mother of Brazil, home to the seed of the emerging sixth root race, as described in the Ageless Wisdom, and also in my books and newsletters, of course, quite regularly. And Portugal is a country blessed by abundant sunshine, beaches, and natural beauty, a good place to visit and regenerate in retreat. These are some of the factors that have determined our choice in this country. The westernmost portion of Europe, in fact, and the southernmost portion, if you consider Sagres in the southwest corner. Sagres as in sacred. And also a popular brand of beer here. So, the vision, the multifold vision for the Aquarian Wisdom Centre and Retreat is for esoteric education, a haven, retreat, community, and sustainable living. This picture, by the way, was taken back in 2016 when I was invited to Portugal to run some seminars. Esoteric education includes all facets of the Ageless Wisdom teachings, esoteric astrology, psychology, healing, meditation, etc. The creation of an esoteric library. What has happened to reading, by the way? A long lost art that we cannot lose. And so, haven and retreat, the cultivation of those qualities that foster peace and tranquility through lifestyle and the promotion of right values. The creation of an oasis of light, love and wisdom. And of course, many of us have had these ideals over the years that we want to set up a centre in South America or United States, or Australia, or New Zealand, or Portugal. There are many different groups here in Portugal, actually, many yoga centres. They don't all last, though. Some of them come and go. Community is not an easy thing to build, as per the challenges I mentioned before. We can all have particular ideals about something, but the manifestation of those ideals can be a different thing. So community, incorporating a united vision through right relationships, mutual support and sharing. Global community and or a physical live-in, live-on community. Sustainable living. It is envisaged that the retreat centre incorporate the values of self-sufficiency using modern and developing technologies, solar power, and wind, agriculture, permaculture, water catchment, etc. You name it. Whatever is applicable and appropriate. gardens, orchards, vegetables, ornate gardens of beauty for contemplation and service. A large property that can have permission for expansion with yurts and cabins and so forth. And, well, this is a mighty convention hall, this one, is it not? Maybe it looks a bit bigger with a wide-angle lens, but why not? Retreat activities. Before I get into that, I'll just mention again that the intention of
your sound is not coming out, Phillip. No.
better now. Is it okay? All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. Thanks. Adjust my microphone a bit. As I was saying, many esoteric groups throughout Europe are kind of landlocked with their language, which does not permit too much interaction between other countries. So English being the universal common language these days is, this is what we're aiming at, having an English-speaking school that many groups from around Europe and of course around the world can interact with. And but particularly Europe in terms of strengthening this theme of European unity and the subjective causes or basis that, or the application of the esoteric teachings to that process that can eventually reach and express themselves exoterically through other servers in those nations. So again, we come back to this idea of working with the subjective and applying the esoteric teachings, somewhat invisibly, you might say, but in a very practical way as well. Practical mysticism, you might call it. So these retreat activities would cover year-round retreats open to all esoteric groups or individual teachers around Europe or from anywhere in the world. Regular local retreats, Portuguese groups in Portuguese language or English language, that possibility. Full moon meditations, including the solstices and equinox points at the Cardinal Cross. Courses, workshops, conferences on the Ageless Wisdom, astrology, meditation, weekly, monthly, annually. So I realized this is a big vision. Have we bitten off more than we can chew and trying to promise more than we can deliver? I don't think it is an unrealizable or unreasonable proposition, this centre. I think there are enough people in Europe to make it work. I've personally visited many centres around Europe, from Scandinavia to Greece, to Italy, and other nations, to know that there is an existence, many scattered individuals and groups that could certainly be empowered by having a centre such as this in Western Europe, in Portugal. Of course, it doesn't have to be in Portugal, but this is our focus at this current time. It could be in southern France, for instance, such as the future beginners schools that we mentioned before. And indeed, in southern France, there are quite a few esoteric schools of one kind or another based on the Templar tradition or various mystical or esoteric orders. But I think the principles for Portugal are quite compelling, given those reasons I went through before with regard to Portugal, its history, the particularly the Grail theme, I think, which I've explored in a few newsletters. You can find on my website. And of course, Portugal being the mother of Brazil, the synthesis of Europe, both in culture and its quite complex language in many ways, to Brazil, the seed of the first subrace of the sixth root race that will be manifesting, we are told, in the next 25,000 years, which happens to coincide with the end of this greater Aquarian cycle of 25,000 years that I mentioned before. It seems a long way off, but so this shorter Aquarian cycle of 2,160 years is the seed for that greater cycle that will manifest in 12 zodiac signs time. 12 times 2, 160 equals 25, 620 or thereabouts. 920, I should say, yeah. So, with regard to the language, Portugal is a mixture of about 4 languages, I believe. French, Italian, Latin, of course, the Romantic languages, Spanish, and a little bit of Arabic as well, which gives it its unique sound and flavor. And I believe, my theory is that, in fact, this language will be the basis of the new universal language that will replace English, but thousands of years away, probably yet. Perhaps the language of Esperanto was an effort towards creating a new universal language, but it didn't quite take off. So anyway, again, another kind of Romantic language based effort, that one. So the property, again, we don't own the property yet. We will. In fact, we're a little bit cocky and confident about the fact that it will happen. I don't know why, but there was a sense of kind of a knowing about this, that it will manifest. A large property to begin with, set the initial foundation for community living and retreats. It is envisaged that a property for purchase will be a fairly large villa style with about 6 bedrooms or more, with a large kitchen and living areas for meetings and workshops. Possibly in the Alentejo or Algarve area of Portugal, which is 2 to 3 hours south of Lisbon, for various reasons, which we won't go into today. But there's airport access, there's a great abundance of sunshine year round. It is also planned to have a large land area, 5 to 10 hectares, which is quite a big chunk, for cultivation, recreation, gardens, possible swimming, and enough room to expand accommodation of cabins, yurts, and caravans, etc., as per the picture here to the right. So far in the past couple of years, the Aquarian Wisdom Centre's activity has been confined to monthly meditations and webinar presentations for each sign. Recently, however, we began a weekly popular course, The Mysteries Unveiled, which has run so far for 20 of its projected 40 weeks. I think we had over 200 registrants for it to start with, and we still have a fairly sizable chunk that are running with us of people. It's closed at the moment because you have to actually start at the beginning and run through the course. So it will be available again after we finish this round. But for all these activities, including this, our first conference, we have built up a significant fund of donations that will go toward the eventual purchase of a property. Yet the price for such a property is a sum that is nowhere near our reach currently. And we're looking at the next couple of years to leading up to 2025 to reach our target. And hence, if you share the inspiration of our vision, you can make a donation to our fund at our website under the donations heading, aquarianwisdomportugal.org/donations. And there's explanations there of different ways of paying as well, and also email contact if you need to ask any other questions about that. So that completes the overview of what we're about. And this first conference initiative has been challenging to get together and to execute. So far, so good. Touch wood. And I very much appreciate the work that all the presenters have put into this and the coordination of everyone behind the scenes to make this work. We're still just a bit past halfway. We've got another day tomorrow, of course. But for you to all consider the possibilities of such an adventure as this, to contribute to either financially or physically, or even as a volunteer, for instance, to help out on our weekly meditations or monthly meditation webinars, just on simple things like opening the Zoom meeting, keeping an eye on visitors and all that kind of stuff. We are also inviting co-directors, and you are basically all registered for this conference, so you are part of the Friends of the Association. So you'll receive regular newsletters if you wish about what we're doing. And also, eventually, sometime this year, we'll probably have a financial statement that we'll make public, as is part of our brief as a non-profit education organisation registered in Portugal. So, got plenty of time left for this presentation. I invite you to make, once again, comments, questions, clarifications thus far of what you've heard in the last half hour. And I didn't mention the education part, but I think that's, well, I touched upon it, but there's a full page of reading there that you can check out at your leisure on the website. Greece, of course, being the heart of the ancient mystery schools, or the most recent ancient mystery schools. So creating a link from Greece to Syria, which of course is where the Master Jesus reputedly lives physically. Leading to Egypt, of course, the home of the mysteries of mysteries. In fact, with regard to the Masters of Wisdom, there are quite a few scattered around Europe. Just as an aside, we have the Master Rakotsi living in the Carpathian Mountains, north of Romania and Hungary. have the Master Jesus on the fringes of Europe. Of course, these masters travel extensively, we are told, so around the planet regularly. We have the two English masters. We have another master in an Irish body who works in the USA. We have a master at each of the 5 planetary centers, so London and Geneva, for instance. We have the master Serapis in Egypt, and there was a disciple that DK talks about who made a great sacrifice to incarnate in Russia sometime last century. We have the Venetian master. Does he hang out in Venice? We don't know, but he is the Chohan of the third ray. There's not much known about him, quite a mysterious master in many ways, but his previous incarnation was Paul Veronese, the great Renaissance artist. So again, in Letters on Occult Meditation, the Tibetan discusses how many of these places for proposed schools, the preparatory grades or the advanced schools, were to be located on ancient magnetic sites that had carried similar initiatives in ancient times. Have any comments or questions yet? Not yet. Feel free to put something in the chat or to put your hand up if you want to say something. And have someone in the chat there. Karen Ledger says, Philip, where is the information about the masters and their locations? In one of the first books, the first book, in fact, that Alice Bailey wrote, Initiation, Human and Solar. There was a lot of information there. I have a book, of course, that I wrote called The Masters and the Seven Rays, Their Past Lives and Reappearance. You can find a lot of that information there, and scattered through the Theosophical teaching. Irina says, I really can't say for it is true or not, yet there is a very serious Russian community that I'm aware of and briefly a part of for a couple of years that DK has returned, and he lives in Russia. Yes, I think I've seen that group and those claims. I take them with a grain of salt. Of course, all of us, the esoteric community, is regarded by the hierarchy as the most glamoured group. And so we can be subject or enslaved to our ideals sometimes and try to identify ourselves as having some prestige or connection with hierarchy. And indeed, I think if groups really did so, they wouldn't really make those claims. But it's not for really me to say. These are all steps on the way in terms of group development and unfoldment and working out our individual and group glamours, I think. So. Thank you for the message there, Mikhail. Our next group will start in 10 minutes. 4:30 p.m. GMT. So we have still 10 minutes to discuss, dialogue. I know that some of you have expressed to me a deep interest in this project, in supporting it in various ways. And so we look forward to to further discussion with you about this. Alexander says one of Rakotzi's estates is still available to visit in Mukachevo in the Transcarpathian region in Ukraine. Another place related to Master R is outside of London, where Francis Bacon, supposedly, and he was an incarnation of the Master actually, was born, ruins of an actual house. Yes, I read about this one in Mukachevo a few months ago, actually. Fascinating. There are a few places around there in that area that are kind of the trail of Master R. And Leslie says, thank you, Philip, for this compelling vision for the new center. This brings to mind a marvelous sutra from Agni Yoga. Quote, by the broadness of your vision will you allot your own part. The manifestation of unprecedented possibilities is behind the door. Give us reason to rejoice. Unquote. Thank you, Leslie. Wonderful quote there. The Agni Yoga teachings are an integral part of this trilogy of teachings of Alice Bailey and Blavatsky, written in a different style, with a different, very intuitive feel, and of course linked to the great Russian artist Nicholas Roerich. Eleanor and Nicholas Roerich from St. Petersburg, I believe, which is reputedly the heart center of Russia. Who wants to get their fingers in the dirt and grow some veggies? So there are all kinds of possibilities. Of course, we know some major centers around the world, such as Findhorn and so forth. We don't necessarily have those kind of ambitions. Something like this has to grow organically. It can't be just created and just dropped in from nowhere, so to speak. It has to organically grow with the intergroup relationships and magnetically drawing to it that which is needed